The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hi, welcome everybody. Welcome to the Noyantis Usergroup meeting. Today is Monday, 19th of August, 2019. Myself and John are here.
Are you sharing your screen there, Andy?
Am I sharing my screen? I'm not sharing my screen. Show screen.
There you go.
Is that up? Which one is which one is showing?
Clarion.
Oh, okay.
Or control app.
Yeah, that's okay. It's just to switch the monitor setup as well. So it's all changed from a hardware point of view. So next week it'll be different again. No. So yes, okay. So we are live. As I say, it's the 19th of August. As always, anyone's got any queries or questions or issues, problems, please feel free to raise your hand and we'll get the mics open and we'll cover them. Now, I know today we've already got a question in from John regarding the QuickBooks integration and really the refreshing of the token to make it as easy and seamless as possible. So we'll cover that shortly. I'll just get updates out of the way, of course. No new product releases this last week, but there is an update actually in progress at the moment. It's related to the report control. So we've just had a couple of builds. If we actually look at the history, I think it was in the last 10 days or so. We had one release and then a couple of quick fixes, so we can see here on the 12th. And it was really to do with the new functionality. The hot fields were added to the report control and view key and so on and so forth. And then there was a couple of fixes which quickly followed regarding an incorrect class calculation for some resizing, and there was an incorrect class calculation for the add row, which I think Bill found during last week's webinar. I've also found another actually typo in the class as well, which will be fixed in 4.12, which I'm just currently working on now. But the thing which might be of interest to you, it's really, again, because it's the latest set of changes, if you will, for the report control. It's related to the joined and the hot fields. So basically, mainly to do with the hot fields. What just as you would with the Clarion one, we're going to give you the ability where you can specify the hot field. We're going to scrap the requirement for you to specify what file it's from. You're not going to need that. You can just go and choose a field, and then we're going to have the usuals: bind the field and not in view. The things you would get in Clarion. This will allow you, if you, let's say you had go back to our filter. If you had a filter there on your for the view, and it was company number equals your customer company number equals global company number. Well, that global should really be bound and so on, and there wasn't the ability via the template to do that. So, and you would have to embed that bind statement. So that's quickly just being changed now. So you'll be able to automatically bind the elements of your filter statement and that kind of thing. So your hot fields, if you will, just as we've always done with the Clarion type things. So that's the change what's coming up, plus some additional embed points so that you can actually optimize the starting positions for TPS of the view and things like that. So that should be released. I'm going to say first thing Wednesday. I was going to say tomorrow, but it's not. It's going to go into an app tomorrow while I'm doing some testing, but then on Wednesday it'll probably be available for download. So that'll be 4.12. So that's really it for the updates. So on to questions. Now we've got no questions here, but I know John. Let's see if he's got a microphone. Hi, John.
Hi, good morning.
Good morning. Are you well?
Or good evening.
Yes, well. So yes, quite. So yeah, you've got it's really to do with the QuickBooks. Is that correct?
Yeah, so it's working with the Chilcat product and your wrapper, wrapper for that, and I'm specifically trying to work with the QuickBooks connectivity. So the problem that I seem to be having is and I started with my own app, had some just miserable failures. So I've gone back to taking a copy of your demo app and just modified it a little bit to see if we could debug the issue, find out what I'm doing wrong.
Okay.
And so what it seems to be happening is, so reading all of the connectivity information from your INI, just the default out-of-the-box demo, all of that works. Can connect. I can stop the program, reconnect. I can, download the list of accounts from my sandbox, and all of that's working. I've tried to translate that into storing the connection information into a SQL table, which is what I would plan to do in my own app. And it appears that I can connect. I think it is reconnecting, and that's why I'm a little fuzzy about that. But where I am getting a specific failure is if I try to click the download accounts, it's getting unable to download accounts. It's returning the error code, or the -1, I think, error code.
Right. Yep.
So we're not getting that. So I question, am I really getting connected to QuickBooks when I'm going through my code using the SQL table as the source of the data?
Right. Okay. So, well, let's take one quick look, refresh ourselves here, and we'll also just walk through some of the bits of code as well. The particular project where this is used quite heavily, it's actually running in a service application. Can drop connection, reconnect, and so on and so forth. So, and that actually isn't it stored in an ini, it's stored in a JSON, and then I've created them a class to do their loading of configurations and so on. Okay, just 1 second. That's me halfway through doing some changes. I should have really prepped this for today. Won't be a second. Just let me. This is one of the changes which is coming up next, and it's to do with a new SMS provider, but it's part of the toolkit. 1 second. I do apologise for that. I should be there. We'll bring this into send SMS simple texting. Spelling mistake. Sorry about this, won't be a sec. Proof that the products are continually being developed. Okay. So we're on QuickBooks. There we go.
I'm just seeing the report control app on my screen. I don't know.
Oh.
Yeah, likewise.
Okay, see it now?
Yep.
Okay, well, we had a compile error. Sorry for those who weren't sure, we had a compile error when I went to compile it, and it was because we are just in the middle of adding a new SMS provider to the SMS gateway, a company called Simple Texting. So just as you will with these, you'll be able to choose a gateway, and Simple Texting will be on there, and then specify your credentials and go off and send a text. So it'll be another provider you'll be able to use. Very good for US and Canada. customers. I think their pricing's quite cheap, if I remember correctly. So, okay, well that's the particular change we're coming up. So we've got back to our QuickBooks. So the details you're storing, are you storing basically all of these? The ID, the secret, the sandbox?
Yes. Yes. I basically everything that was in the object, everything that you were saving in the demo that you were saving to in the INI file, I've translated that over to also save into a database table.
Okay, so let me just, what we're trying to achieve is the equivalent of this. So I'm just, the other screen's just logging in now, and the OAuth 2. So I'll just bring that into, so we can see it in action. Company 2. And we are granted. Thank you very much. I'll leave that over there. Okay, so we've got the current access token expires in 1 hour, and our refresh token expires in 101 days, give or take. So the idea behind it is, if we go out of that and come back in, we should be able to see that we've got some basically active credentials, if you will, mainly to do with the refresh token, and then we can attempt to connect and refresh using the previous details. So, and now of course I should be able to issue standard commands, so bring down some accounts, that kind of thing. Now in the example,
and I would say there that does continue to work in my version of your demo app.
Okay,
so the reconnect,
that's good,
and
you
the
can
download
download.
of accounts.
Yes, brilliant. Okay, so now let's just take a quick look in here. So there'll be an ini. In fact, yep. There we go. I'm going to put it into text pad because I might just take a couple of characters off the things before bringing it into view. So yeah, so do you know what? I'm just gonna. I won't save this. Okay, so you will have something along the lines of the thing about storing it in, it's all plain text and there's a lot of private details in there. Where's QuickBooks? There. Right, yeah. Okay, so if I bring that into play, these are the type of details that we've got. I'm not really bothered about that access token because it's kind of irrelevant. You know, that's what's returned. Just so people can follow the flow, what you would do, just going to run, go to our QuickBooks, and that's just gone and basically re-authenticated itself given the previous details. But I'll disconnect. Now if I was to connect, it's going to go off. It's on my OAuth 2 over here. It's asking me so on and so forth. I accept, and then it comes back. And at this point, this grant, what that actually does from the data point of view is it provides you with this, your access token, and there's a date and time of it expiring, and a refresh token, and again a date and time that it will expire. And it's this type of information it will require to be able to do any kind of communication. If that's not correct, you won't be able to do communication. So of course that is correct, and we can now go off and start issuing commands against the actual QuickBooks data. Okay. I've just quickly hidden the client ID. But in order to be able to get this access token, which is the all-important token we need, in order to be able to get that, we're going to need basically to pass it various pieces of information. We're going to need a client ID, which we'll get from the QuickBooks developer portal, and a secret. You're going to want to know if it's a sandbox, and that basically tells the class, are you talking to the sandbox URLs or the production URLs, so where to get the data from. And of course, this token will be married to a sandbox environment, or because this will change every time we connect, it will be, but it will be married to a particular environment, is my point. Okay, so let's just move that back out of the way. Take a quick look at what we've got here. So we've got our QuickBooks. Here's our piece of information: client, secret. We've got, you understand the principle of the redirect. So when basically QuickBooks does authenticate you, you choose your company, it passes the access token and some other information like the realm onto a URL, and what this does is it bounces it back, the redirect, back to your application which is running. Okay, so if we look at the code under the connect, and we can see here that we pass it some pieces of information, and if it's successful, we then basically display some information on the screen, but the class will have a whole host of additional information populated. So looking at this part of the class here, it's to do with the active connections. So just let me bring that into play. Is that any questions so far?
I guess one, and you may be getting to this, but that's one of the things that I'm capturing is the active connections, and I think I was calling it in my table connection status or something like that. But it seems that when you're reconnecting, you have to supply that as well. It's not just a return status, right? Yeah. It's a key piece, right?
Yeah. So I'm just going to bring the class into play here so we can see that the structure, if you will, of not just we're just bringing back some piece of information like a date and time, and that's really for the demonstration purposes for you to see them on screen. But if I was to go to the class and have a look at that group, the active connection, okay, that's the entirety of the information that we really will need. Have you got a connection? So it's a QuickBooks connection. You can say that's quite obvious because it's a QuickBooks class, but we also use a similar approach for our Xero and MYOB and so on. The access token, which is from an informational point of view, something like this. So your access token. The date and time that is due to expire, and we put them on the screen. The client ID and the secret, which you will have actually called as part of the connect string. The realm ID is also important. Okay, and the realm ID, to put it in perspective, is, now let's just run. Let's see this in action. And I'm just going to disconnect. Reconnect, quickly bring this into focus. Now I'm selecting a company here, three test companies. Treat these as a realm. So that's 1 realm, 2 and 3. So I'm selecting that. Okay, and it's going to basically give you this access token. The access token is basically bound, if you will, to the sandbox environment or the live environment, and also which company data. So when I say select star from customers, it knows which company to go and get them from. So the realm is also very important. So we don't display that on screen here, but if we were to go back to our class, that is what you need to know. So that would be returned back. And if we look in from here, we can see that that particular realm, just looking for it, is there. Means nothing to us visually, but to QuickBooks it would do. That is now which company to go and get the data from. So we're using test company 2. If we'd have chose test company 3, we would get a different realm ID back again. Okay. Oh, that's a report control change. And the refresh token and the date and time. So far so good. Well, that's the information after getting a successful connection, these will be populated with valid, or should be populated with valid values. And we
So
get
quick question about that. So I see that you're using C strings in the class. When I'm storing that to the database table, should I be using the what is it? It's SQL. Is it varchar or something like that?
Yeah, it'd be varchar or nvarchar if Unicode, but you don't need
And
that.
if I'm not doing that, that could be a potential problem as well.
I
think I'm just using the char.
I do clip them, but just to be on the safe side, either you clip them when you're repopulating them back into the class, or store them as varchars.
Okay, so yeah, I'm doing the clip in the code, so that does basically perform the same.
Yeah,
essentially. Okay.
So we've got a connection, or we think we've got a connection. It's marked us off and said yes. That ID, that secret, with that redirect on a particular port has been successful. We change a display color, and then we just for visual confirmation we change some date and times so you can see when it's in action. If I was to call the refresh, so we can see here that the refresh is doing exactly what we want it to. And of course, we would end up with a different access token because that access token we knew expired at one particular time. That would give us a different expiry date, so it would be a different access token, and so on and so forth. I think the refresh would probably be the same one because it's still valid for 100 days or 101 days. So the refresh token would probably still be okay. So if we look at that code under the refresh, just doing it in like steps, if you will, but let's have a look how that differs from the connect. Now, okay, what I'm doing there is the class has already been populated. So we can see here, yeah, we're just calling the refresh. In turn, what that will actually do is basically go through and it will check one, you've got a connection already because you can't refresh if you're not connected in the first place. So if you've got a connection and we have a refresh token to go and query against, then it will go off and it also checks the expiry date of the refresh details, because if they're not valid, you can't refresh. Say they are valid for 100 days and you're trying to refresh in 102 days, they're not going to be valid. So it's pointless attempting it because they've already told you it's going to fail. But if it does, it goes through and basically goes and attempts to get your connection, gets a response, and then updates all the elements of that group accordingly. Okay. So last but not least, then, is a bit where you seem you're having the problem, and it's when we want to let's just rerun this. We've just had a connection, so we go back in, and we want it to automatically connect, but also ensure that it is truly connected, and we can go off and perform actions appropriately. So when the demo app closes, it stores all the bits in the ini. Nothing. I mean, we could quickly have a look, but there's no great secrets there. It said the ini app would just demonstrate it. So we store the ID and the secret and so on and so forth. The sandbox environment, as I say, that is important because that will tell it which URLs to go against. These are the main things. Were you connected? What were the connection details? The realm and the refresh tokens. Now, when the window comes in, it can basically have a look. We'll load all our defaults. So we just run our example again. Sorry. And we load all our defaults. So all these come in off our ini. And then it actually attempts a connection using the previous details that it had. So that's it, just loading some details from the INI. And you can see it's the client, the port, the sandbox. There should be, just looking for the realm. Oh, it's there. Okay, yeah. So we've got some stuff there. We have to also call a method called set sandbox mode. Are you doing that prior to doing the reconnect?
Yes,
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure I am. I will double check that.
That is important, because if your previous details, where you had it all working and so on and so forth, were in the sandbox, and then you're not restoring that part, so it thinks it's false, so it thinks it's in production environment, then of course those refresh tokens, access tokens, so on and so forth, they would all be invalid because they are not against the same environment that they originally came from. So they would definitely fail. So
yeah, it looks like I may have missed that step. That may be the step that I've missed in my code. So
you would need that. Yeah. Oh, yeah. It will.
Because I see it in your code from the INI, and it looks like that's the missing piece from my code reading from the database and setting up values. It looks like I'm missing that, so I will try that real quick.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, you could put that. Doesn't necessarily have to be there. You could put it just before the reconnect. I've just put it where I've done some changes. In fact, in reality, it probably would be neater to be down there actually. So yeah, so we're doing plenty of get-inis. Some are going to the screen, some are just going straight back to the class. But the essential bit is all the parts of the class. So all them bits which were saved, which were calculated after the connection, e.g., where you connected, the access token previously, and so on, the client, the realm. Just like the sandbox environment, the realm is also just as important. Because it might be that you're testing against company one, and then you're not setting the realm, so it's trying to go and query a completely different realm, and those tokens are valid. So,
Yep, I am pulling in the realm. I see that, but yeah, it does look like I missed the sandbox. So I'll try to make that change real quick and give you some feedback.
Yep, no problem. I'm just going to actually quickly recompile that, even though it's only a straightforward set, but I'll check it still works. No reason why not. Yeah, and we are, and we can query. I mean, you are in very good company. I've just added one of the things you've seen. We've got Xero and QuickBooks, and we are working on the MYOB. And in the particular application which does all the synchronizing against different accounting systems, I'd forgot on the connection on the live app to set that on that you have to set a country code and a business ID, which is exactly the same as a realm ID for QuickBooks, and I'd forgot to do that. So I was getting good tests and results in my test application and my test environment, and when it went live, in the live app I was working on, of course it didn't work. So you're in very good company if you did miss that step. How's everybody else? Any questions off anybody else? Not seeing any questions so far, so that's, you're either all asleep or you're all understanding it.
Yeah, so Andy, I've added in that line to set the sandbox, and doesn't appear to have fixed the issue. I'll double check that I have the syntax right on that and get back to you in just a minute.
Yeah, of course, no problem. So we're waiting for John, and there's no other questions. Other updates to Chilcat, which are in the pipeline. Obviously, we just mentioned there's going to be a new SMS provider. So you will have a company called Simple Texting. I'll just to quickly show that. Don't know if anybody uses the there you go, Simple Texting, but they're competitive price plans. So that's just another gateway that you'll be able to specify, get your API keys, get your bundles, and go and send your texts accordingly. Okay, so I see one questions just come in while waiting for John. Pete, one simple question about the report control. Where are the header and where are the header and footer for? Where or what? Where are you, Pete? Where are you and attendees? See if you've got a microphone. There you go. Found you. Hi, Pete. Microphone's open.
Hello.
Hi.
Yeah, at some point in the template, you can give the report a header and a footer. Where can I use that footer for?
Well, I mean, a good the header. I take it these aren't header rows. You're talking about the header itself rather than header rows. Is that correct?
Not a row, and on top of the window.
Yeah.
From that report control, but it's.
Yeah. So, for example, let's just quickly bring that into place. Dev report control. We've got, yeah, I mean, obviously, you've got your simple header here. That's no problem. And you can have, I think we do a footer somewhere. Row preview, headers and footers.
Yeah.
Oh, they're actual rows. But here you do have a footer. So just like you have a header here, you can have a footer there. But you can have static header and footer rows as well. So if you notice there's a thicker line here, just above the third row, and there just above the last two rows, and basically they remain static. So you can have header rows and footer rows as well as a header and a footer. So which one are you referring to? Do you mean just the header and the footer?
The bottom, the
very
footer.
bottom. Okay. Well, you can use. I mean, obviously you can use that for anything you like. A good example there would be totals.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I mean, I use it in some of mine for totals and for informational and so on for little prompts. But yes, basically it's just basically a footer row, so you can use it to anything you like.
Okay, and that should be hand coded.
Obviously, it would have to be hand coded, depending on your own requirements. But before DevCon, you will have totaling in there. Where it can automatically calculate totals for you via the class and put them into so this was, let's say, the size here, and you had various different values on the size, then it would total put that into there for you. So you've got that coming up.
Okay, great. Thank you.
No problem. And then Greg, I'll just mute that. Although, any questions, just jump back in again. Greg, I don't know if you've got a microphone, Greg. Put him on the spot. Just to check if he has, so he's got Andy. Have you looked into adding the report control and graphs to the Capesoft dashboard? We looked into it in the past and was looking at putting them in as widget controls, and spoke to Bruce. So we actually did start on the actual project, to be honest. But that's as far as it's really got. Yes, there will be some. Work involved in that area, and there will be some work, some things, but I don't think it'll be before CIDC, because there will be good enhancements for the report control and charting coming up before CIDC. So there'll be our own enhancements to our own products. So the link to dashboard, iDash as it is for Capesoft, will be coming along, but I don't think it'll be before CIDC this year. But do watch this space regarding charting directly from the report control. We're doing a presentation Friday the 13th, unlucky for some, but Friday the 13th of September, we are going to do a Friday webinar regarding totaling and group totals and so on in the report control, and charting the data straight onto the CodeJog charting. Okay. So yes, basically, let's go back onto. Well, again, if anyone's got questions, feel free to jump in. While waiting for John regarding the QuickBooks, so work on the Chillcat is, as we've mentioned, there's a new SMS provider going on there. But there will be, and we've got some other task classes, as you've seen. We've now got the D-Track. I don't know if anyone's aware of that. So we've got the D-Track task class for parcel deliveries. Going to introduce the Easy Post task class as well, which will make it extremely easy for you to interface with Easy Post for sending parcels and requesting collections and so on and so forth. But there will also be a couple of payment gateways being added to it as well, because one of the things we're getting requests for quite a lot at the moment. So there will be some payment gateways going on there. The PayPal's been, there it is, the PayPal option's been disabled while we're finishing that off. So obviously that will be finished off, but so will the PaySimple. There'll be an addition of PaySimple and Stripe. So you will be able to do some payment processing via the Chillcat wrapper. So, okay. So John's got his hand up, but your microphone's still open, John. So you're welcome to jump back in.
Okay. Yeah. So I did recheck the adding of the sandbox line. So it obviously it was missing, but does not appear to have affected the end result. When I run, the QuickBooks window, pulling the data from my database record instead of the INI, it tells me it's connected. So basically all the same logic is there about checking to see if the connection is there, but it is still failing on the the download of any the accounts or any of the other types, as well as giving me, when I try to run the query for the query from customer, it returns some stuff, but I think it all appears to be just error code saying I don't really
understand. Well, one of the things, I mean, we'll switch to your screen in a second. What I would suggest, just while you're doing that, is so you can do and this is still in the test app, is that correct? That you can.
Yes, it's all based on the demo app.
Brilliant. So, can we, after you get a successful connection, can you save those details out to another place, be it the original INI code, so we can just see them, and then what we want to do is we want to compare those details. So after it's had a successful connection where we can successfully query and so on, we want to then, and we'll switch to your screen to do this, we want to then have a look at the details that you're bringing back in from your database, and we'll compare the details that you're going to attempt to connect with compared to what was received after a successful connection. And we're just going to compare the two.
Okay.
Is that okay? But obviously, we're going to switch to your screen in a sec. Be careful, because you're going to have private details in there like connection, client IDs, and I mean, if it's a sandbox environment, you can cycle the client secret very, very simply. So that's not too bad, to be fair. But just in case you are working with production or anything like that, then you do want to be careful for obvious reasons.
Yeah, it is sandbox only, but we'll still try to protect.
You can cycle the secret. One thing which has just gone into the latest Chillcat, it's not released, but it will be in the next build, and that is to aid the error reporting. So if we were to look at, and it's based on the common class. So well, if we have a look, you've got a group called last error. Now, this the classes 0, QuickBooks, MYOB, various ones, now all do a lot more reporting back to do with the errors. So they will see as an error being raised, so that will be, the set will be true. You can have a look if it was in HTML format. You can look at the HTML format of that error. 9 times out of 10 with API work, the error will be in JSON format. So you could query it in JSON format, and that the last error.json will contain that. You will also have the last response code. So let's say it was a 401 or 400 code that it had failed. You would get the response code populated in there for you, and you can have a look at the overall response body, and that will be populated for you as well. So basically, you would get, if it was just some results, which errors can come back in JSON format in the results. QuickBooks works like that. Xero works like that. So you would want just the JSON element of it, or the text element, or the HTML element, or the XML element for that matter. But if you wanted the full response in all its entirety, then you can query the code for the actual return, the HTTP response code, and the full body, and they will be set for you. And you've got methods for them accordingly. So along the lines of get last, and you can see here you've got get last error HTML, get last error JSON, get last error response body, get last error response code, text, and XML. So all the kinds of things I just mentioned a minute ago. So you make good use of those. Okie dokie. Right, John, shall we switch to you?
Sure.
Okie dokie. So it should have prompted you to say make presenter.
Yeah, I'm not seeing that. It came up now.
Okay, okay.
Okay, so it should be sharing, and you should be seeing the Clarion IDE.
We are, yep.
Okay. So what did we want to do first?
Okay. Do you still have the code there for storing the old values to an ini, so we can just take a look?
Yes, it's all contained, and so literally when I run that, I'm just choosing. Do I want to run that from an INI perspective or the database perspective, and that just sets a little variable.
Okay.
So yeah, I still have that, and I think I'm cross-populating that when I save to both locations. So we may have that already.
Okay. So let's just try that in the QuickBooks from ini, if you will.
Oh, okay. Okay, so it reconnected.
Okay.
And we go in, we can show that we get accounts.
Brilliant, okay.
And all that. If we go in the same thing from the database perspective, then it appears to be reconnecting.
I've not seen any secret, or have you just hidden that?
Yeah, I've just hidden that.
Okay.
And then, but when I do the download, it gets a failure.
Yeah.
Or if I come back and just try to run the query, it's not returning anything. So I think that's telling me that it's a.
Let's have a look. Illegal character in path. So what's that? Status 400. Index 67. You can just scroll that a little more, please. Okay, just going to try exactly the same there. And notice you're using localhost, so I want to replicate that same test on mine.
Okay.
Yep, won't be a second. Won't be a second. Just... In fact, let me move your screen over there. There you go. I can see yours now. Now mine's wanting to re-authenticate, just like you had on yours. All auth granted, great. So I've got that, and I can run my query. So far on that, go back in, get my connection like you got, and yeah, I can do a account. So yeah, so as you've got their local host, we are one and the same now. Okie dokie. So let's take a quick look then at what's been saved and what's being loaded. And I think it's going to be a case of, I don't know, debug them or message them or whatever. But let's just try one against the other.
Okay.
Oh, can we have a look at the connection code, please? Just on that one.
Do you want to see the connect or the reconnect?
The reconnect, please.
Okay. Oops.
Okie dokie. Just scroll up a little.
So the population of the data from either the INI or the database is just moved to a routine just for to
Yep.
clean that up a little
I'm
bit.
just looking at where the sandbox is. Is that in the?
Yeah, so that would be down in the of course here was your original code, the put, the get, and the put, and then changing that to the database logic, and then this is the new code I just added today.
Okie dokie. Now I can see there on the access token we're not clipping.
Oh yeah, you're right. Okay.
And the same with I do that on the access token, the realm, and the refresh.
Access token, the realm, and the refresh token.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I missed that. I thought I was doing that, but apparently not.
Oh, as I say, you're in good company. Yeah. Oh, you did have the set sandbox, by the way. It's underneath.
Yeah, I think I added that during this conversation. I don't think I had it there initially.
I was going to say because
no, wait a minute. You're right. Maybe you're right. So
now that's setting it to LV, but LV wouldn't have been populated there. So LV would potentially be. Oh no, you're doing a change. So that would potentially
that would have populated it, right?
Yeah.
So maybe I did have it. I'm sorry. I'm a little confused as to whether I had that or not before I put in this new line. This was the new line for sure today. Not sure about that. So okay.
Okay. Well, let's try these clips and see if they make any difference as well.
Realm. All right. Yeah, back to that conversation from a few days ago. I'm a saver. I'm always a saver. Just habits, right?
Oh yeah, same here.
Well, you get used to doing things the way you did it 20 years ago, and sometimes I find myself still doing those same things. Even though things may be easier now or more streamlined. So.
Well, I think Clarion 7, Clarion 8 helped us get used to pressing that save button.
Yeah, that's right. All right, so again, we think we're reconnected. Sandbox is set. Let's go to accounts. That's it. So it was a combination of maybe the sandbox, not sure, and then certainly the clipping of that, or if I would have saved it as a varchar in the SQL table, that would have been the same effect.
Yeah, I think it's more the clipping. I mean, I don't know obviously your code, but chances are you probably did have the other sandbox in there because it looked like it was like buried at the end. But you was doing a change to a local variable, so that would have loaded correctly and so on, which was all good. So I think it was just the clipping. So what it's doing there is is getting an access token populated, but it's not what they're expecting because it's padded out with the spaces and it's just throwing it a little crazy.
Excellent. Okay. So thank you so much.
If I could do anything in the class there to help, then that makes me think, could the class help out in any way there and go clipping before sending them in?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I shall take a look, because the class can try and work around any issues like this, user issues, which are genuine issues, nice and simple. Then of course it's that. Oh, sorry, John, I think I lost you there. It's either your headset or mine, one of the two. Hi, John.
It's not you, Andy. I can hear you.
Ah, right, okay. My good old faithful headset. I'm hoping that wasn't broken.
So can anyone hear me now?
Yes, yep, you're back.
Oh,
it was just a crackle.
So, yep, sorry about that. So just one other quick kind of a high level. You mentioned in your opening talking about kind of the process I was trying to set up. It was based on previous discussions where, you build a service, it sits out there and just kind of keeps the token alive, keeps it refreshed and all of that. You did mention about, that if it disconnects, it automatically reconnects, things like that. That's the part I haven't gotten to yet. I'm really just trying to get this thing to live and to be able to download data. Now, if we lose a connection, what kind of is the high level approach to reconnecting to that? Is that where you build something into your interface, your user interface, to say, oh, it's not connected, I need to go enter the credentials again and authenticate through the auth? Or is it something else that you're doing, just more of an automatic reconnection?
Well, in the project in question, basically it's a halfway. Trying to figure out how to describe it. Basically, it's a service. It sits there, and it sits between a particular customer's application, quite a large application, which they sell all over the world, and basically it sits between that and. Oh, sorry, 1 second. Sorry about that. These new screens I've just put in place, I've just realised we've got timers that are about to all go off. That's just thrown me. Yes, basically it sits between their application and whatever the accounting system is. So be it Xero and or QuickBooks and or MYOB. And there's some others being added to that as well, actually, to come along shortly. So the plan is, and the way it works is, you've got a service. The service sits there. It loads its configuration to say, okay, which one are you talking to? Are you talking to QuickBooks? Or are you talking to Xero? And so on and so forth. It takes data in from their system in one format and prepares it in the whatever format it's going to be talking to. So in one installation, it might be talking to QuickBooks, and the other installation it might be talking to Xero. And it does the reverse of that. So it will take data from Xero or QuickBooks or MYOB and translate it into the format for their application and update accordingly. So that's the flow, and it just wants to sit there and run as a service. Nobody really know, that it's even running, so to speak. But you do need some kind of configuration of it. So to sit, and it's configuration, you've got yours in a database, the example has it in an INI, and that particular setup has it in a JSON file. It's just a storage mechanism, and I use JSON because it's quite flexible for me to keep adding new things to it and so on. Okay, so they've got a configuration tool, and the configuration takes that configuration data, so it can see, did it have a connection, when was it last connected, that kind of thing, and the expiry dates of the tokens and the refresh, and it can give basically the user the ability to put in their client secret and their ID and so on and so forth, and establish that very first connection. So in the configuration tool, they can enter their details to say, here's my secret, this is the redirect, here's my ID, so on and so forth. Click connect, and that can actually populate the connection details for them. And then the service can see that, it sees a change in the configuration file and reloads it accordingly. and then reconnects accordingly. So the service is sat there. If it hasn't got the correct credentials, it will report back and just say unable to connect to QuickBooks or unable to connect to Xero, so on and so forth. When it sees a configuration file change, it reloads the content, and if it's not connected, reestablishes the connection. So that's basically the UI of the service. The configuration utility is the UI of the service. Does that make sense?
Yes, and that's something that I have built into my app, kind of based on this previous discussion. So that's good. I'm on the right track still.
Yeah, definitely. A couple of and it's for everybody else as well. A couple of little say caveats which has caught me out on is Xero interface. You get your connection, and it should remain open. But if you don't actively poll it, so in this configuration we can say we want to synchronize the clients every 10 minutes, but we want to synchronize transactions every 2 minutes. So they are always up to date on their transactions. But tax rates and currencies we want to synchronize once an hour because they're not going to change, and nominals are not, or general ledger codes are not going to change that often. So it will run synchronized, but it will run them a lot less frequent. So you've got all that going on, and it does the jobs accordingly and does the particular tasks as you would expect. Now, if any of them timings go too long, Xero will actually close its connection. So it thinks it's connected. You've got all your local settings to say you're connected, and Xero on the back end have actually closed your connection for you. So it will refuse the next query, and then it will kick into life the query after that, or actually it won't kick into life. So the workaround from Xero point of view is to basically do a query. Doesn't really matter what. Could be querying a client, could be querying a company, which the company set up. It doesn't really matter. Just keep the connection open. So in the configuration utility, I say, how often do you want to keep alive? And it just does a dummy request every n number of minutes, every 5 minutes, every 10 minutes, and so on, if required. So that's one little tip if you're working with Xero. QuickBooks isn't too bad. It's not really bitten us, but then again, because it's working on that same type of approach, it will also do a similar task like that anyway. Basically a pointless task, if you will. Query a record that you're really not bothered about the answer of. It's just something to keep that connection open and keep it alive. And then MYOB is really strict. They want to close that connection really fast. So what you have to do is just before you attempt to do a query, I call the reconnect. So basically tell it to establish a new connection, which takes nanoseconds. Establish connection, now do my query. So they're the tips. If you're going to write the service like you're going to have there, then do keep some kind of keep alive task in there, just to get it to query something every so many minutes.
That's good information. Thank you.
So I've already, it's caught me out. I've done the debugging on it. I found the reason, and I've done the fix, and on the backing of that with the keep alive, I think it was a Xero test. I set it up over a long public holiday weekend. I think it was Easter, and it was just left it running, downloading for 5 days, and came to it on the 6th morning, and it was just there, a load of download files, but it was still sat there doing its job and so on. So just turned it off at that point. It was that, I think a 6-day test is more than enough.
So would you recommend just doing that as just a standard process, regardless of which service that you're connecting into, QuickBooks versus the other?
Yeah, it future-proofs you. So you might have another client want this particular application that you're working on, and they want to talk to Microsoft Dynamics, or they want to talk to Sage, and we're going to add these interfaces into the Chilcat library, so you'll be able to offer them same interfaces and same services. Well, if you've already built the overall approach into your service, into your application, then you kind of got yourself covered. So if you were to add hypothetically Xero to one of the gateways you talk to, then you wouldn't have that particular issue because you'd have already built it that functionality into your core product.
Excellent. Thank you.
No problem. Okie dokie. Any other questions? I'm glad we got that one successfully sorted, because I know that had been catching you out a little bit. So that's definitely indeed good news. So I shall bring myself back as the presenter. So any other questions or queries? No, looks like it's a quiet one. That's perfectly fine. Okay, then we shall start. We shall wrap it up. Thank you, everybody, as always, and I shall see you all. I shall see you all next week. Cheers. Thank you.